welcome to Prime Property, your weekly real estate reckoner. I'm Nayan Rai, and this is what we have on the show today. Relief for lakhs of home buyers in NOIDA as the Supreme Court refuses to return land to farmers acquired by the state from 2006 to 2009. But there's confusion on who's going to pay the additional 67% compensation ordered by the Apex Court. Mumbai may read out 60% of procedures needed for a building permit. This is expected to cut down approval time by 50%. Prices should come down if this goes through. And we find out if Jayalalitha's comeback can revive the dormant Chennai property market. Massive relief for lakhs of home buyers and a body blow for farmers in NOIDA. The Supreme Court upheld the land acquisition by local authorities between 2006 and 2009 in NOIDA and Greater Noida and ruled the land does not have to be returned to farmers as they had demanded. A three-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice of India upheld a 2011 order of the Allahabad High Court that had directed the Noida and the Greater Noida authorities to raise the compensation to farmers by 64.7% and give them 10% of the developed land. The higher compensation works out to be around 1,400 rupees a square yard or almost 68 lakh rupees an acre. The Uttar Pradesh government had acquired that farmland, invoking an urgency clause to set up industries in Greater Noida West between 2006 and 2009. The farmers had moved the High Court, contending that the Greater Noida Authority gave their land to builders for residential, commercial and other projects. Farmers said their land was forcibly taken at 850 rupees a square yard and given to builders for 10,000 rupees a square yard. The Supreme Court verdict brings major relief to lakhs of home buyers who have bought apartments in over 100 projects, many of which are at an advanced stage of construction.
In this case, the developers had land which had been allotted by the government. And in one sense, they were also the consumers. So basically, if the land was taken back and given back to the farmers, what was the sanctity of a government auction wherein land had been given to private players to develop real estate? So this was the question which was in everybody's mind, especially the apartment buyers.
Mr. Anand, do you believe the Supreme Court verdict has the potential to give a fillip to the Noida market? The Noida market has been doing really badly, not just because of the economic situation or as part of the property meltdown, but because investors stopped having faith in the Noida market given all the legal troubles, not just with this case, but many of other cases as well.
Absolutely, because you see what happened was, in the last 5 years, we suddenly saw a spurt of actual affordable housing in the NCR, and this was only because of this huge supply which had come up in this area which they called Noida Extension, or it actually Greater Noida West. So at 3,000 rupees a square foot, getting an apartment in the NCR was unthinkable. That's such a good location. And when this came up, there was a lot of interest from the end user. And when this judgment, negative judgment came up, the market did come to a kind of a standstill, because prospective home buyers, though they were attracted by the price, though they were attracted by the location and everything else, they were not really confident about the future of the entire verdict of the High Court judgment. So therefore now when the Supreme Court judgment has come out, there's been a huge sigh of relief from people who had already invested in this area. And suddenly there's a new spurt of interest from people who are looking for affordable housing in an area with good infrastructure, where the roads are already up in place and there's reasonably good social infrastructure which is already existing. So suddenly you'll see a lot of transactions happening in this area.
That's right. I have to agree with you that the Noida boom has been based on the fact it was well priced, there's excellent infrastructure over there. but there's still plenty of other overhangs. The Supreme Court has disposed of one case, but you still have the Okla Bird Sanctuary NGT case where lakhs of people are still suffering since the Environment Ministry has not come out with any decision. You have the Super Tech case where the Allahabad High Court has said demolish 2 towers on account of the alleged Babu Builder nexus. So, Noida's image right now is still not very good.
See, like I said, it's absolutely safe, but these, yes, you very rightly said, are unforeseen issues that crop up. As an association of real estate developers, we have at CREDAI been always appealing to the executive and to the judiciary that in their wisdom, whenever somebody approaches them with a PIL to stop work, they should in their wisdom look at the situation in a very holistic fashion. Stopping work is never the answer. Stopping development is never the answer. There are two sides to the coin always. So we have always appealed to the judiciary and the executive to even listen to the other side of the story. That is our side of the story. And this Supreme Court judgment today would give a lot of comfort to the questions, people asking, whatever questions they're asking, like the ones you just asked me. There is justice. So whenever you are doing something which is right, and there are people, let me be very honest with you, there are people with malified interests who keep going to the judiciary with a PIL just to stop work, and there are, various other interests involved in doing that.
And what's the reaction of the builder fraternity for this extra compensation that has to be given to farmers? It will average at around 1,400 rupees a square yard, or about 68 lakh rupees an acre. Compared to all the profits being made by the developers, this is quite a paltry sum.
I don't think it's a paltry sum. Also why? Because besides this amount that you just mentioned, the farmer is also getting 10% of developed land. Now that developed land, 10% maybe in a posh sector in Noida, or also in a very prime location sector in Noida which is totally developed, that 10% land is worth a lot of money, let me assure you. So the compensation is not paltry. It is a very, very fair compensation.
Okay, so you don't think it's a paltry sum, but can you tell me how this compensation is going to be paid? Is it the buyer that has to foot this additional compensation? Is it going to be shared between the builder and the buyers? Or you think the state government should foot the bill?
It is basically the sole responsibility of the NOIDA authority to pay this compensation to the farmer. Having said that, there are certain clauses in the lease which say that the developer will be footing a part of this compensation. And that lease is also applicable to the apartment buyer. So all stakeholders now will have to bear a part of that payment of compensation to the farmer. So the exact formula will be taken out by the NOIDA authority. So I am no authority to comment on that. But yes, definitely the prime responsibility of paying that compensation belongs to the government.
Let's talk a little more about this. The fear is that the way buyer agreements are written, if there's any unforeseen charges, any unforeseen escalation in prices, all of that is going to be passed on to consumers. This is an unforeseen charge. So, are you saying that don't have to be scared that the builders are not going to pass it all to the buyers?
First and foremost, all land in Noida is leasehold. So that means the owner of the land is Noida authority. When a developer gets a certain amount of land allotted by the authority, they have to sign a lease deed. So that lease deed says that the lessor is supreme, and whatever charges tomorrow the lessor may ask for whatever reasons, for like extra compensation, the lessor has to pay. When a developer conveys the title of an apartment to a flat buyer, the same terms and conditions of the lease remain. And when the apartment buyer signs the same lease deed with the developer, he also has to adhere to the terms and conditions of the lease which the developer signed with the NOIDA authority. This is not an escalation. This is not a hidden charge. The apartment buyer agreement between the developer and the apartment buyer is the supreme document. If that document says that the terms of the lease with NOIDA authority will also apply to the apartment buyer, then they will. It's as simple as that.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see if this Supreme Court verdict restores Noida's image as a safe real estate market. As it is, nearly 60,000 home buyers' fate hangs in the balance while waiting for the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar to take a decision on a retrospective order that had been passed by the National Green Tribunal. That order banning builders from handing over completed apartments to buyers, as the NGT says, it falls within an eco-sensitive zone of a bird sanctuary. On the other side, we'll head to Mumbai, which has been instructed by the Prime Minister's office to cut red tape in issuing construction permits to builders. Is that going to help in the softening of prices in India's most expensive property market? Stay tuned.